Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 13 of season 1 of our F1 2020 McLaren driver career mode, where today we're here back for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now obviously if you missed out on the last race from Silverstone, it went live a few days ago now, I would definitely recommend going back and checking out. It was quite an interesting race in the end. I won't leave any spoilers for just a moment, but yeah, definitely one that I recommend you guys go back and watch. In terms of upgrades though for the car at the moment, we did actually fail the new, I think it's the ignition system upgrade, so we've had to redo that one, but hopefully it'll bring us in line with, you know, the sort of the likes of the Ferrari powered cars and potentially some of the Mercedes, trying to think of the right word, the Mercedes teams that they give the engines to. What am I thinking of? I can't remember words this morning, but yeah, we have still got that engine and chassis upgrade in the works at the moment. Then obviously the last race before the summer break, so hopefully we can get those both sorted, and then we should have a car that is, well, I mean, we're pretty much equal with Ferrari and Red Bull anyway, but we should, yeah, have a car then that might just be on paper a little bit faster than both of those teams. Championship-wise though, we did get our first race victory of the season last time out at the British Grand Prix, the second one for the team. Both drivers now have a win to their names. Valtteri Bottas is still top of the standings by 43 points over Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and myself, though, with Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen separating myself and Lando. Alex Albon's still up in P8, and you can see constructors-wise, though, we're actually taking a few points out Ferrari in recent weeks, and we are comfortably now ahead of Red Bull. So hopefully by the end of the season we can hold on to our P3. Maybe if we get things spot on, we might be able to get P2. Anyway, let's dive in then here for qualifying for round 13 here at the Hungaroring. Here we are then in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix, a track that should theoretically suit our car quite well. Obviously not a particularly power-orientated circuit in the world of Formula 1, but hopefully, yeah, we can just keep it nice and tidy, get a good lap under our belt and see where we end up ready for the race tomorrow. There is the setup that we're going to be using, pretty much what I use on every car on F1 2020, but let's dive into it then. Here for the Hungarian Grand Prix, qualifying is very critical around this track. We need to get the lap absolutely nailed up. You can see we're not running much in terms of straight line speed anyway, as we try to get the power down through the first hairpin, but yeah, still a lot of the AI going to be very quick down the straight, so it might be a race where we find ourselves defending a fair bit early on as well. But hopefully if we can qualify well, maybe we can get in, you know, sort of amongst the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. It should be quite interesting to see actually which of us three comes out on top. I think Mercedes, as always, are just about going to have the edge when it comes to pace. They just seem to be a bit better all round than everyone else on qualifying trim, but Ferrari might struggle around this circuit as we head now down in towards the S's. Just try and keep it rotated through nice and tidy. Use the curbing on the exit. You can see it's all very tightly bunched up. We're only a couple of car lengths behind Bottas, and we're still hovering around sort of P4, P5 at the moment. The final sector, the AI are always very strong through here, so we'll need to make sure we keep it absolutely clean and tidy through the penultimate corner. Very easy to get an oversteer moment through there, but one more turn to go. Avoid the pit wall on the inside. Up towards the finish line though. Where is it going to be for qualifying? It's going to be P4 in the end there, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty decent going. Let's see where Lando is as well. Pace seems to be very tight though between a lot of cars.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Bottas, Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. With qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid lineup for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
So there we go then, qualifying done and dusted for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Bottas on pole by 0.2 of a second there. Love the 2-1-2 gap to Hamilton as well. Sebastian Vettel at P3, just a 10th off, just narrowly beating myself. We can English, I do promise. But Charles Leclerc, 5th ahead of Max Lando and Alex Albon there, as Daniel Ricciardo seems to be on the pace as well. 3.5 tenths clear of any of the other midfield runners, if you will. 6 tenths ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon at the end of qualifying there as well. So yeah, top 8 seem to be a little bit mixed up. We seem to have the pace to match the Ferraris. Lando seems to have the pace to match the Red Bulls. Race, though, might be a little bit different, but Can we give Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton a bit of hassle this weekend as well, just like we did at Silverstone? Let's find out then. It's time for round 13 here at the Hungaroring.
It's race day in Budapest as we get ready for another round of the Formula One World Championship. We don't expect too many retirements at this track. There are plenty of current and former drivers with flawless finish rates here. In particular, Ralf Schumacher. He made it across the line in all 10 of his Hungarian Grand Prix starts. 14 corners then for our drivers to navigate at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring today. It's 6 lefts and 8 rights around a lap here, with average speeds in the region of 120 miles per hour. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
Well, the throttle goes both ways, Crofty. You've got to have the discipline not to try and win the race on the first lap, so always be prepared to lift early and give those around you more space. Trying to be the last of the late breakers with half a dozen cars around you may pay off from time to time, but it's also a great way to lose your front wing.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Mr. Monaco, Charles Leclerc and Verstappen, Norris, Albon, Ricciardo and Lance Stroll, Perez, Kvyat, Esteban Ocon and Gasly, Raikkonen, Grosjean, Antonio Giovinazzi and Kevin Magnussen, Russell and Nicholas Latifi. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are then on the grid, ready for the Hungarian Grand Prix. You can tell how exciting a track is when Crofty's best stat is that Ralf Schumacher managed to finish every Grand Prix he did around this circuit. As many of you that have been around this channel for quite a while know, Hungarian Grand Prix circuit, not my favourite on the calendar. It just never... It's alright actually in other cars. World Touring cars, this place is brilliant to race around. But in the Formula 1 car, it always just feels a little bit weird. I've never been a particularly big fan of it. But hopefully today we can have a nice clean race, get some more points on the board. Maybe, just maybe, be able to challenge for another podium or maybe even better, the race victory here. Obviously that Silverstone win sort of came out of nowhere. We didn't have much pace during qualifying. So maybe this weekend is hopefully similar. Maybe the opposite though. Who really knows around this track. But I'm going to dive right into it then here. Round 13 of the season from the Hungarian Grand Prix. Hopefully, like I said, we can keep it clean at turn 1. 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go. Not a very long hold at all, but we do get off to a fairly decent getaway there. That's Lando Norris making big gains as we head down in towards turn 1. We've just got to keep it nice and tidy on the inside as Sebastian Vettel goes for a send on Lewis Hamilton there. But yeah, Lando's had an absolute worldie straight up into P5 then of the Grand Prix as we head down in towards the next hairpin there. You can see Lando trying to stick the nose at the inside. We should be able to get the power down on the exit, and you can see Hamilton and Vettel both not getting a good run. We're all going to be side by side as we head up into turn 3 as Hamilton brake checks us there on the inside. Lando a bit of contact with him as well, but nowhere we could go in that situation there. The team are already recommending a new strat. Hit the end of this lap. We'll see what the front wing damage is like there as Charles Leclerc tries to get the nose up the inside, but that has not been the start to this Grand Prix that we needed. That Hamilton completely Constantina and up in front of us there, and no idea why he was so aggressive on the brakes through those final couple of corners of Sector 1 there, but it's really cost us in the end here as we head through the final couple of turns of this opening map. Charles Leclerc now really applying the pressure there. The front wing damage doesn't feel too bad, I'll be honest, but out of everyone it seems like Bottas and Lando Norris are the big winners off the start there. Bottas already a good 2-3 seconds up the road there as we get all squirrely at the final corner as well. It's going to be a drag race for Charles Leclerc as we head back down in towards turn 1. We'll force him defensive, dart back over to the racing line as we head through the first corner, but nothing on the front end there. We're probably going to have to pit a little bit early, go on to a set of the hard compounded tyres and try and take those to the checkered flag here. Not the start that we needed, already down into P6. But Max Verstappen getting a big run on us as we head down in towards the final couple of corners of lap 2. We're going to try and make it difficult for him, make him work for it as we head through the penultimate turn, but we are going to dive it into the pits. At the end of this lap, we're going to need an absolute worldly of a drive now if we want to be able to get a good result here. We've scored points, I think, in every Grand Prix this season still, as just trying to work out where the pit lane entry is, the speed limit into the pits. But yeah, like I was saying, we've scored points in every Grand Prix so far this year. No doubt that streak will probably come to an end at some point, but hopefully it's not going to be here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's going to be a long, long stop though, but we are going to have clear air as we get an 8.5 second stop. Not the best in the world, but yeah, like I said, we are going to have a lot of free track space in front of us. You can see on the mini-map, the Ferraris, Mercedes and our teammate comfortably ahead out in front, but if we can pull off a bit of a worldie, maybe still be with the Red Bulls. Coming towards the end then of lap 4, really struggling on these hard compounded tyres. It's not really a tyre that you want to use around this Hungarian Grand Prix circuit, but we are still taking about 1.5 seconds a lap out of the likes of Latifi and George Russell here, so clearly the pace isn't too woeful, as obviously we set a new PB for the Grand Prix as well. But yeah, really struggling on these hards. They just aren't the tyre you want to use around this circuit, but we've got to keep our head down and see what we can score. Oh, starting to see the first few runners into the pits as we got yellow flags out as well, as one of the Alpha Tauri is struggling. Hopefully we won't get a safety car from this, otherwise it could really screw us in this Grand Prix. Don't think anyone's retiring, but you can see there the racing point and loads of cars there out ahead of us. Pierre Gasly out of the Grand Prix, but Ricciardo and Kvyat have come out ahead of us in this Grand Prix, both on a set of medium compounded tyres as well here. So we are only on the cusp of points then in this Grand Prix at the moment. We're going to still need to try and keep our head down and focus on recovering more places there. But yeah, that could have been really bad had we had a safety car there. We would have basically been at the rear of the field, having had everyone got a free pit stop out of it as well. But yeah, now we need to try and push to get round some cars. Coming to the end of lap 7 then, we're going to see a lot more cars into the pits. Hopefully we'll get a rough idea as to where we are in this Grand Prix as Danny Kvyat tries to put the power down out of the final corner, where there is a big cluster of cars in the pit lane, but I think we're going to come out in P12 of this Grand Prix then, so still outside the points at the moment, but you can see Ricciardo is right there up in P10. I think we have still got one more car that needs to pit. I think that's one of the Alfa Romeos still running up towards the front of the field there, but it all seems like I think Hamilton has been completely screwed through the pit stop window there. Lando looks like he might be on for a podium here at the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, so clearly the race pace, like we tend to see from this car, a bit stronger than our qualifying trim. But yeah, we still need to try and get past Daniel.
We need to get past here. Use overtake.
There we go. Giovinazzi, the last man into the pits, on to set the hard compounded tyres for whatever reason. So we are now up in P11 once again, but really struggling to match Daniel Kvyat and Daniel Ricciardo at the moment. We need to try and get round them. Still got a ton of spare fuel in the car that we definitely need to start burning through in the second half of this Grand Prix. Hopefully it'll give us that little bit of an extra oomph to close up to the Alpha Tauri and the Renault man, sorry, even I should say. I'm far too used to the My Team Karima, where obviously Ricciardo is back at Red Bull. But yeah, Danny Kvyat, though, seems to be hanging on in there. He actually seems to be taking a little bit of time out of Ricciardo as we get a bit loose. Lay some extra rubber down at turn 1. We just need to try and get Danny out of the DRS window. Seem to be a bit closer to the back of the Alpha Tauri this time round out of the final turn, but still, that top end speed from the Honda power unit is still keeping him in this. At the moment, we make big gains as we head back down in towards turn 1, but again, just a small slip up on the exit, and the gap opens up once more. We just need to try and get the nose at the inside at any opportunity, and even if we can't pull off the move then, make sure he's out of the DRS window, so then he's a bit more vulnerable. Might have to try and go for a big send in towards turn 1 this time round on Danny Kvyat. We are taking a bit of time out of him. We'll have a go up the inside, and we will pull off the move in the end there, so really taking Danny Kvyat by surprise in that situation. And now with 7 laps to go, we're back up into the points here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando still looking good in P3, but it looks like the Red Bulls have actually closed back up to Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in this race. We should now be able to get around Ricciardo and hopefully Lance Stroll, I should say, before the end of the Grand Prix, if we still want to hold on to P8, which is, yeah, probably the worst we should be doing in these races. Here we go, end of lap 12. Let's just see how good Ricciardo's straight line speed is then. Without any DRS, we're able to take a good few tenths out of him as we head back down in towards turn 1, but definitely not close enough to go for anything this time round. Hopefully, we can stick to his diffuser and get round him onto lap 14. Ricciardo just seems to be so strong through the final couple of corners of the lap there, like we always see from the AI. You can see the gap of about half a second as we cross the start-finish line this time round, and we are making, again, big gains on the run down towards turn 1. We do definitely consider going for the move this time round, but Ricciardo still holding firm, and this is where this McLaren really does struggle in dirty air. It is still not particularly a great package at the moment. It's got very good aerodynamics, but when you get a car pushing air all over the place in front, it really just slides around. 5 laps to go here from the Hungarian Grand Prix. Stroll might be out of the question now, but Danny Rick is definitely still the target. It's just the traction Danny Rick seems to be able to get out of that penultimate corner. Really just springs him into that final turn of the lap, and still you can see the gap. We just sat about half a second back as we head back down in towards turn 1 that time round. Getting a little bit overconfident on the brakes, trying to have a look past the Renault car there. We actually make a tiny bit of contact with him, but we're both taking a bit of time out of Lance Stroll as well. So clearly Danny Rick is still pushing, but we've just got that little bit more pace in the car. To be honest, I think if we did get round him, we wouldn't be able to pull away all too much, as that's not the line through turn 4. Just these hard compound tyres, we've just got to hope they hang on in there a little bit longer than everyone else's mediums. That time around, we're a tiny bit closer to Daniel Ricciardo. The gap only 4 tenths as we cross the finish line here. 3 to go from the Hungarian Grand Prix. That's a mighty send that time round. It was either go for it or run into the back of him, and we do get a warning for that one, so it was definitely on the limit of what is fair in Formula 1. But we have finally pulled off the overtake, and we are now back up into P9 of this Grand Prix. We've got under 3 laps to go. Can we close up to Lance Stroll by the end? Purple in Sector 1 as well, as we run horribly wide through turn 4. That was just how much time we made up through that lunge. And then to the final lap of this Hungarian Grand Prix. We have taken a bit of time out of Lance Stroll, but I don't think it's going to be enough before the end of this race here. I think this would be, I don't know what our worst result is of the season, but I think P9 would probably be the worst race of the year there. To be honest, I feel a little bit gutted. Hamilton sort of brake checked us a lot more than I was expecting him to. I don't know if he was salty after last race or what, but Valtteri Bottas is going to come through for another commanding race victory there. His first in actually quite a few races in this season, but that is going to further extend his lead in the World Championship. Sebastian Vettel is going to come through for P2, but for us though, it's only P9 at the end of the day. They're really just a race to forget, but we made it to the flag here at Hungary.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
It's a performance to be proud of today from our Hungarian Grand Prix winners. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today. Let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
It's got to be Lando Norris, hasn't it? Smooth, confident and assured. I've got no doubt that he and his team are going to be over the moon with his performance today.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So there we are then, guys, the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix. And it is Bottas pole position, fastest lap, race victory, 26 points on the board. All nice and simple from the Finnish driver there. Sebastian Vettel, a very, very good P2 actually, in quite a Grand Prix for him after pulling off those daring moves on the opening lap. But Lando Norris as well, certainly my driver of the day, 7th to 3rd pretty much on the opening lap as well there. A fantastic job done by my teammate there to get another podium on the board ahead of Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, both Red Bulls, Stroll, myself and Daniel Ricciardo there. And yeah, certainly a race to forget for myself when all is said and done there. We really just, yeah, nothing to write home about in the end. Like I said, gutted the way it all went wrong at the start, and then those hard compounded tyres never had the grip to be able to fight with the cars that we needed to be there. Championship-wise, though, we're still at P4 at the moment. They're now just 5 points ahead of Sebastian Vettel. That's probably our aim for the end of the year, to see if we can hold on ahead of the Ferrari man there. But Lando has now jumped Max Verstappen as well, so he's 5 points clear of the Dutch driver there as well. You can see Stroll getting the better of Kimi Räikkönen as well, but no other movers in the World Championship there. And constructors-wise, though, Ferrari pull away a little bit. We pull away a bit more, though, from Red Bull as well. So just further solidifying ourselves in P3 as well. And no major battles to look out for at the moment, except for possibly AlphaTauri and Haas, if one of those teams can get some good points on the board. But Mercedes further clear at the top of the championship as well. But thank you all so much for watching this video nonetheless. If you did enjoy, do make sure you get yourself subscribed. And yeah, we will be back very, very soon for round 14 of the season, where we head to my favourite track. It's time for the Belgian Grand Prix. You guys do not want to miss it. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.